Depuis 10 ans, le gouvernement autoritaire de Pékin essaie de supporter Justin Trudeau et de l'aider. Ça a commencé avec un don de 200 000 $ à la Fondation Trudeau et l'ingérence dans 2 élections consécutives pour aider les libéraux à gagner. Justin Trudeau est au courant de cette ingérence depuis une décennie. Il a caché. Il n'a absolument rien fait, sauf que nommer un ancien PDG de la Fondation Trudeau pour rédiger un rapport là-dessus. Le Parti conservateur veut mettre les Canadiens en premier, ramenant le gros bon sens chez nous et retourner le contrôle de notre démocratie aux Canadiens et aux Canadiennes. C'est la raison pour laquelle nous avons revendiqué une enquête publique et indépendante. Publique et indépendante. Public et indépendant. Celles sont des 2 choses qu'il faut avoir dans n'importe quelle enquête. Que fait Justin Trudeau? Exactement le contraire. Il veut un processus qui est secret et contrôlé. Secret et contrôlé. Secret parce qu'il veut que ce soit dans des comités qui entendent d'évidence et preuves secrets, des témoignages secrets et des résultats secrets. Contrôlé parce que c'est son bureau qui est en charge de déterminer ce qui peut être dans tous les rapports de ce comité. Il ne veut pas la vérité parce qu'il ne veut pas que les Canadiens connaissent la vérité, parce qu'il sait que ça va l'impliquer dans le scandale de l'ingérence du gouvernement autoritaire de Pékin. Et en fait, la seule enquête vigoureuse qu'il veut, c'est pour cibler les dénonciateurs. C'est ça la priorité de Justin Trudeau. Ce n'est pas protéger notre démocratie de l'ingérence étrangère, c'est de se protéger politiquement en ciblant et en détruisant les dénonciateurs courageux qui ont publié ces secrets déjà. Donc, le Parti conservateur va continuer à demander une enquête indépendante et publique. Et, entre-temps, nous avons forcé une enquête ici au Parlement et nous revendiquons aux néo-démocrates d'arrêter le camouflage pour les libéraux et de permettre le témoignage des personnels de Justin Trudeau au comité parlementaire. C'est ce qu'il faut faire. Il nous faut la vérité. Il faut protéger nos propres intérêts nationaux ici au Canada. Thank you very much, everyone. For 10 years, the authoritarian dictatorship in Beijing has been supporting Justin Trudeau. They started by giving $200,000 to the Trudeau Foundation. They helped him in 2 consecutive elections. He's known about this for a decade. And you're telling me he didn't know that Beijing gave $200,000 to the Trudeau Foundation? Are you telling me that he didn't know that they interfered in 2 consecutive elections? Of course he knew. He was briefed multiple times, and he kept all of those briefings secret. And then, when he got caught, he hired the former CEO of the same Trudeau Foundation that had received the money from China to write a report about it. And now, he's trying to cover it up again with a secret process that he controls. We want the opposite. He wants a secret process. We want an open process. He wants to control it. We want it to be independent from him. And oh, by the way, he's going to appoint a special rapporteur, which of course will be another establishment liberal appointed by him that will come out and say everything is fine, let's just close the book and move on and let the dictatorship in Beijing once again interfere to help Justin Trudeau get reelected. Conservatives want exactly the opposite of closed and controlled. We want open and independent. An open, independent, public inquiry to get to the truth and make sure it never happens again. We need to bring home control of our democracy, bring home control of our country, rather than allowing foreign dictatorships to manipulate our interests. We know that Justin Trudeau admires the basic communist dictatorship in Beijing. He said so. So it's no wonder they support him and they have worked hard to keep him in power. But we want the truth to come out. And we are going to continue to fight for that truth. We also want to bring home control of our economy. We know that the President of the European Commission is here today. Europe needs our natural gas. When Trudeau took office, we had 15 proposed natural gas export terminals on his desk. Not a single one has been completed. And the Japanese Prime Minister, the German Chancellor, now the European Commissioner are already all asking for our natural gas. And he's saying, no, go get it from Putin. He's helping fund foreign dictatorships by shutting out our industry. A Conservative government led by Pierre Poilievre will quickly approve natural gas exports so that we can shut down coal fire in Asia and replace it with clean gas and replace European dependence on Putin with our clean, responsible energy. In other words, we'll turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people. We will bring it home. Thank you very much. I welcome your questions.
Vous avez parlé des dénonciateurs comme étant des dénonciateurs courageux. C'est pourtant contraire à la loi sur les secrets, etc., de révéler du renseignement. Pourquoi appuyez-vous leur démarche?
Mais c'est incroyable que les services de renseignement sont aussi inquiets, qu'ils sont prêts à faire ces genres de risques à leurs intérêts personnels afin d'exposer l'attaque contre nos démocraties que Justin Trudeau essaie de camoufler. C'est incroyable. Dans l'histoire de notre pays, on n'a jamais eu un service de renseignement aussi préoccupé avec un premier ministre et sa collaboration avec un pouvoir étranger qui sont prêts à publier ces genres d'informations. Évidemment, ça fait des années où ces services ont essayé d'avertir le premier ministre, mais il n'a rien fait. En fait, il a encouragé l'ingérence étrangère parce que c'était dans son intérêt et l'intérêt de son parti. Donc, évidemment, la priorité devrait d'arrêter et empêcher l'ingérence étrangère, mais la priorité de Justin Trudeau, c'est de persécuter les gens qui exposent cette ingérence. Ça montre encore que la priorité de Justin Trudeau, c'est de protéger ses propres intérêts politiques. I should just say that in English. It is actually incredible that we have this uprising at our intelligence body. This has never happened before. They must be very worried about how the Prime Minister is working against the interests of his own country and his own people. They've been warning him for years about this. And what has he done? He's covered it up, even encouraged it to continue. And so they are so concerned about how the Prime Minister is acting against Canada's interests and in favor of a foreign dictatorship's interests that they are actually releasing this information publicly. And what is Trudeau's priority? Not to stop the foreign interference. No, that's not the problem for him. The problem is the whistleblowers. He's against a real investigation into the foreign interference we know happened, but in favor of a tough police investigation into the whistleblowers who are exposing it. This is the Trudeau's approach. This is exactly what he did, but it's exactly what he did with Jody Wilson-Raybould. She spoke out against him helping a Liberal company get off criminal charges. He didn't go after the corruption. He went after the whistleblower. Same with Mark Norman. He spoke up, a respected admiral spoke up against Liberal corruption in the issuance of multi-billion-dollar contracts. And did he go after the corruption? No, he went after the whistleblower. He always stands up for the corruption, against the whistleblower, and in this case, against Canada's interests.
How do you have a public take part in any of these reviews? I'm thinking about the Intelligence Committee. Is your party going to take part in any of this?
We're not going to remove ourselves from any of these reviews, but we're going to continue to demand an independent and open public investigation.
Until that inquiry is called, are you saying that there is nobody that can act as a special rapporteur that will meet your
Well, we'll see, but
standards?
we know the last few times, you know, he picked a Liberal staffer to oversee the Emergencies Act review. He picked, if I could, well, of course he could pick someone independent, but he won't. He'll pick another Liberal establishment insider, a real Ottawa insider with some gray hair, who looks like a reasonable fellow, but we all know that it will be someone tied to him, tied to the Liberals, here to protect the Liberal establishment, just like the former head of the Trudeau Foundation that received money from Beijing, whom he named to oversee the report on Chinese interference.
Have you ordered a review of your nomination processes in the Conservative Party? Have you ordered a review of your own nomination processes in the Conservative Party as a result of all these revelations?
We've told I've told the party that we need to stand up against any form of foreign interference, and if anyone brings it to my attention, I will root it out. And furthermore, I would encourage CSIS to tell leaders of all political parties if there is any attempt by any foreign government to interfere or infiltrate their nominations or their election campaigns. And if I ever see evidence that there has been, I will act aggressively to put an end to it immediately, which is exactly the opposite of what Justin Trudeau did when his top campaign officials were briefed about evidence of interference by Beijing in one of their nominations.
Will you boycott or will you help picking a special rapporteur?
We've told them we don't think there's why do we need a special rapporteur? What does this rapporteur even do? It sounds like a fake job. We need someone who actually has a real work plan. And what we've said is we need an independent and open investigation headed by someone approved by all parties in the House of Commons, not another liberal establishment Ottawa insider.
On the committee, so you're saying you're not going to remove yourself, you're not going to remove your MPs from this review. Can you tell me if there is a review, you will take part in it then? You will participate?
We're not removing people from anything. We're going to demand more.
How do you have an open investigation, a public inquiry when we're dealing with CSIS and national security secrets? Even the former campaign director of your party for the last election has raised doubts about the practicality of that actually working. So how could that work in your mind?
These things happen all the time when there are matters sensitive to national security that end up in the court of law. Judges can find a way to put in place a publication ban to protect information that is that needs to be protected in order to preserve the national security. That happens all the time, and that's why you have to. The public should get all of the information. The bias should be in favor of more information, not less. Only the information that could imperil our national interest should be withheld, but that is a very small amount, and Canadians should be able to know how the dictatorship in Beijing interfered in order to help Justin Trudeau stay in power.
Yesterday, NSICOP, you called it a trap and a trick that Trudeau would bring in MPs from your party. And
they're already in.
Well, you're going to participate in something.
So if I could correct the falsehood in your question, the question was yesterday was whether I would go in and personally get briefed about secrets of the state. And the answer, if I could answer your question, and the answer I gave was, of course not, because then I would use that to silence me from speaking out any further. It would then become illegal for me to speak out. Now, how is that different than the current so-called NSICOP committee? We already have 2 members of parliament who are sworn to secrecy who are on that committee. It hasn't been very effective, but it's better than nothing. But what we actually need is an independent and open public investigation to get to the bottom of interference by Beijing or any other foreign dictatorship in our democracy. It's time to bring home our democracy. Thank you. Thank you.
Bill C-18, Liberals Online News Act, and grab. Bill C-18, Liberals Online News Act. Summary. This enactment regulates digital news intermediaries to enhance fairness in the Canadian digital news marketplace and contribute to its sustainability. It establishes a framework through which digital news intermediary operators and news businesses
quick opening, and then I'll be
may
ready
enter
for your
into
questions.
agreements respecting
Today,
news
we're going to be asking questions
that is made available by digital news intermediaries.
Serious allegations
The
of
framework takes
foreign
into account.
interference. We demanded a public inquiry and put that forward in committee, and it was voted on. It's clear that that's what parliamentarians want. It's what Canadians want, and really, we want 2 criteria to be satisfied. We want to see a process that's independent and that's public or transparent. Those are really the 2 important things that we believe will restore confidence in our electoral system, and we'll be asking questions about that today. Donc, on va poser des questions aujourd'hui parce que les allégations d'ingérence étrangère sont vraiment sérieuses et ça demande une réponse qui est transparente et qui est indépendante. Ça, c'est pourquoi on a proposé une enquête publique dans le comité, mais ces 2 éléments sont importants transparence et indépendance. Donc, on va continuer de mettre la pression sur le gouvernement parce que les Canadiens ont des questions et on doit avoir des réponses.
Si je laisse le rapporteur, d'abord, allez-vous participer au choix, là, de la consultation du rapporteur spécial, mais si ce rapporteur spécial conclut qu'on n'a pas besoin d'enquête publique, qu'est-ce que vous allez faire?
Ça, c'est une potentielle. Ça, c'est pourquoi on dit que la déclaration ou les étapes suggérées par le Premier ministre sont des petits pas et on va voir les résultats. Parce que pour nous, il y a une question du fait que cette ingérence, ces allégations d'ingérence ont miné la confiance dans la démocratie et c'est important de faire quelque chose pour encore donner la confiance dans notre système de démocratie. Donc,
is your party going to take part in the review at the National Security Committee on election irregularities, and will you offer the government any input on a special rapporteur?
So with respect to the committee, our member of parliament that's present on the committee, Don Davies, will participate, of course. But we want to be clear, we don't think that's sufficient, just that committee work. That committee, while it can do important work, is a committee that is very confidential, given the nature of the information. And we had said from the beginning, the two criteria we have for restoring confidence in our electoral process and responding to Canadians' questions has to, one, be independent, but two, has to also be public, and that's not going to be satisfied by that committee. And with respect to the special rapporteur, we are open to providing suggestions. It will be the government that will decide who that is. We expect it to be someone that has credibility and someone that is respected across the country.
Will you put names forward for recommendations of who the independent watchdog should be?
We're considering names that we would suggest for the special rapporteur. But again, this needs to be someone that has the confidence of Canadians, someone that is respected, and someone that is credible.
Vous êtes d'accord avec ça, que ce soit le gouvernement qui choisisse la personne qui sera nommée rapporteur spécial?
En général, souvent avec les commissions, si le gouvernement le nomme, le bilan ou l'expérience et les gens nommés sont des gens qui font un travail important, prennent au sérieux la position. Donc, on a confiance dans cette question de nommer la personne. Mais pour nous, la question qui manque ou la question qui reste, c'est vraiment la question de ces deux éléments, indépendance et transparence. Et à ce moment, ce n'est pas clair si on va avoir un processus qui est aussi public. Ça, c'est une question.
Ma question, M. Singh, j'ai pas bien compris votre réponse. J'ai pas bien compris votre réponse tout à l'heure. Donc, si ce rapporteur spécial dit non, pas d'enquête publique, vous faites quoi?
C'est une question hypothétique. On ne sait pas c'est quoi la raison pour laquelle il va donner une réponse comme ça. J'ai dit ma position, et ma position est claire. J'ai besoin, je pense que les Canadiens ont besoin d'un processus qui a ces deux éléments. Et sans avoir ces deux éléments, je pense que ça va être difficile à répondre à cette question du fait de ces allégations ont miné la confiance dans notre démocratie. Donc, sans avoir une réponse qui donne de la transparence et puis l'indépendance, je pense que ça va être difficile à répondre à cette question.
Does the rapporteur or the inquiry head need to have political experience in running campaigns, nomination or electoral campaigns, and has the party, your party, ordered a review of your own nomination and electoral campaign processes to prevent foreign interference?
Okay, I'll take the question in two parts.
I throw in two because, you know,
sure, that's fine. That's fine. First part, I don't think it's necessary to have a political experience, someone that's got credibility, someone that knows how to ask the right questions, someone that will consult the experts, I think can do the work necessary. So I don't think that political experience is a criteria that's necessary, but we want someone that will do a thorough job, will ask the hard questions, will have access to all the information, and will present something very clear and transparent to the public. So I think that's what's needed. On the second question, we have We routinely review our process, but we have received no evidence of any concerns in our nomination process. And so that has not been a question that's been raised.
Is the special rapporteur, you talked about these two criteria, independent and public, do you think the special rapporteur can meet those criteria, or does it have to be a public inquiry?
I think the rapporteur could. It is potential. Well, they're certainly going to meet the independence, the fact that it's no longer going to be partisan. So the first element of independence will be there. The second question about the transparency or the public element is one that could be met, could not be met. That's one that we're not certain of, and that's why we're saying that the government's announcement are baby steps, but are not going to respond right now to the gravity of the situation yet. It remains to be seen if it will.
And if the rapporteur says,
with regard to whether or not you'll accept the findings of the special rapporteur, you say it's a hypothetical question. So can you hypothesize for us if they come out, they meet your criteria for independence and be nonpartisan, and they say there shouldn't be a public inquiry, you're going to go for that?
I'm not going to hypothesize on that.
What would it take for you to accept it?
Well, we're going to wait and see.
Yeah.
We're not going to prejudge anything right now.
So you're cool if there's no public inquiry after your party just voted a committee to say that there needs to be a public inquiry?
No. We've said that there's two things that need to be met, and I've said that again and again, and I've opened up the door to how this is met, but we need to see a process that's independent and public. And right now, my concerns are that with the appointment of a special rapporteur, it will qualify as independent, but I still remain concerned about the public element of it. And that's why I believe the public inquiry is the best path. But I will be open to hearing if those two criteria are met. But right now, I don't think they're met, and that's why I'm raising my concerns.
what happens if they're not met? When you get to the end of this process, you don't like the fact that they are not doing a public inquiry, the special rapporteur, would you withdraw your support?
That's not a decision we're making today, and we'll assess the information that comes before us, and we'll let you know once we see the next steps in terms of if they're satisfactory or not. But right now, we're saying very clearly that the independence seems to be met with this idea of a special rapporteur, but we're still concerned about the public element of it. Canadians need to know that everything is being done to protect our democracy, and right now we're concerned about that.
Your committee motion that you worked on with the Conservatives called for opposition parties to be consulted on whoever leads a public inquiry. Should they not also then be consulted on whoever leads a special rapporteur?
Yes, I think it's a good idea to do so. In the past, that's not been the case, but I think it is a good idea.
We had Mr. Poilievre out here before, and he was talking about CSIS agents leaking information because they see the Prime Minister working against the interests of Canada. What do you think about that? Do you think that's what's going on?
I think that's a very, I don't know how the leader of the Conservative can make that allegation. I don't know what evidence he's basing that on. The reason for the leaks, we don't know what the reason were, what the motivation was. All we know now is that we've got serious allegations in front of us that should be taken seriously. That's why we're calling for a public inquiry. And just to correct the record, we're the ones that called for the public inquiry. New Democrats called for it. Conservatives are more interested in playing games with this. They're using the committee process as a opportunity or forum to score political points. We think the question of defending our democracy is not an area to score political points. It's about protecting democracy, and that's why we're remaining very measured that we want a public inquiry, because we want to get to the real nature of the problems and then ultimately get to solutions to safeguard and protect our democracy. That's our goal, very different from the Conservatives, who are really just out here trying to attack for the sake of attacking. They don't have the goal of protecting our democracy. They have the goal of scoring points, and it's very clear if you watch the committee, that is their goal. Their goal is not trying to find solutions to protect and safeguard our democracy.
Que le rapporteur spécial demande une enquête publique. Est-ce qu'il ne serait pas pertinent que ce soit quelqu'un qui est nommé par le Parlement, par une majorité des élus, ou même par l'unanimité?
Ça soulève une question des processus en général. Et j'ai dit dans le passé que le processus au niveau fédéral, c'est un processus, je pense, problématique. Comment on nomme des commissaires, comment on nomme des gens qui gèrent une enquête. Dans les autres parlements, quand j'étais député provincial, on a eu un processus où tous les partis reconnus étaient dans un comité qui décide et qui nomme un commissaire avec l'unanimité du comité. Je pense que ça, c'est une meilleure façon de gérer les dossiers comme ça. Donc oui, en général, le processus au niveau fédéral, où c'est seulement le gouvernement qui nomme, pas seulement les gens qui gèrent une enquête, mais aussi les commissaires, c'est un processus que je trouve problématique. Et je pense que meilleure façon, c'est un comité comme lequel que j'ai fait quand j'étais dans le comité qui est nommé la vérificatrice générale de l'Ontario. Je pense que c'est une meilleure façon pour tous les partis appartenus dans un comité.
To have a family in the first place because they can't get out of their parents' basements or out of 400 square foot apartments after housing prices have literally doubled in this country under this Prime Minister. And now, with rising interest rates, which this government promised would not happen anytime soon.
Let me welcome you all to this extraordinary event.
Marked by first official visit by President von der Leyen to Canada, Her Excellency's first address to Canada's Parliament, and on the eve of International Women's Day, an address by the first woman president of the European Commission. And as Speaker of the House of Commons, I've had the great honour, Madam President, to be among the first to welcome you to Canada's Parliament. Permettez-moi maintenant d'inviter le très honorable.
I now invite the Right Honourable Prime Minister to say a few words. Mr. Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentarians, dear friends, dear colleagues, thank you for being here tonight for this very special occasion.
It's my honor to welcome the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, to address our Parliament. Almost a year ago, I addressed the European Parliament in Brussels, and it is our profound privilege to host you here at the seat of our government in Ottawa tonight. It is a testament to how deep and strong the bonds between Canada and Europe have become.
In March of last year, I addressed the European Parliament. It was a few weeks after the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine that shook international stability. Vladimir Putin brought a war to Europe on a scale not seen since the Second World War. He thought the world was divided. He thought his invasion would weaken the European Union, NATO, and the ties between the world's democratic friends and allies. Well, a year later, it is clear how wrong he was.
President von der Leyen, you are here as an inspirational leader who has been central to galvanizing support for Ukraine and its people, not only across Europe, but around the world. You are a defender of democracy, of freedom, and of peace. You are dedicated to helping the most vulnerable. You embody the values that we cherish as Canadians, and our government and all Canadians are proud to call you a friend. As the Speaker pointed out, tomorrow is International Women's Day. It bears pointing out that President von der Leyen is only the sixth woman to address Canadian Parliament like this, and the first woman elected to be President of the European Commission. She is one of many, many women around the world who have become the face of resistance to autocracy. Women like Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya, who just yesterday was sentenced in exile to 15 years in prison. Or the women of Iran, from schoolgirls to grandmothers, who took to the streets demanding to live their lives free of persecution and started a movement that has resonated around the world with the rallying cry of Zan, Zendegi, Azadi, women, life, liberty. And with women around the world facing threats to their right to choose, it is more important than ever that their voices ring loudly from every corner of society. Because when women have strong voices and hold positions of leadership, it makes our democracies stronger. The world is facing challenges, and we need strong, principled, and responsible leadership from people of all backgrounds. So thank you, Ursula, for not just being a strong example of that leadership, but also for putting forward policies, decisions, and solutions that are empowering important voices across Europe and around the world. Ensemble,
together, we will build a better future and grow resilient economies focused on the well-being of all Canadians and Europeans. We will build a future powered by clean energy and clean growth, a future where Canada's critical minerals are the foundation of our clean technologies around the world, a future where we fight climate change and create good jobs for the middle class on both sides of the Atlantic. In 2017, it was here in the House of Commons that the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement between Canada and the European Union was ratified. And in 5 years, trade between Canada and the European Union had already increased by 2/3.
The partnership between Canada and the EU is stronger than ever. It is built on our shared belief in gender equality, in human rights, in international law, in a strong and growing middle class, and in growth that creates opportunities for everyone. Fundamentally, it is built on a belief in strong and lasting democratic institutions like the one we are in today. So without further delay, I am pleased and honored to welcome President von der Leyen for her joint address to Parliament.
Prime Minister, dear Justin, Mr. Speaker of the Senate, Mr. Speaker of the House, Excellencies, Senators, members of the House of Commons, distinguished guests, people of Canada, thank you very much for welcoming me to the heart of Canada, the home of Canadian democracy. They say hard times reveal true friends. And this is what the European Union and Canada are, true friends. The history of our democracies is tied together. So many Canadians have their family roots in Europe. Many of your parents and grandparents have fought in Europe during 2 world wars. They were sent to faraway places on the other side of the ocean. Tens of thousands of them lost their lives in the trenches of Belgium, in the heat of Sicily, on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. I am a European of German nationality. It was German Nazism and fascism that brought death and destruction upon Europe and the world. But it were Allied forces that brought liberty back to all of us. The united democracies freed us from dictatorship. Thus, we owe our democracy also to you, the people of Canada. And we will be forever grateful for the sacrifice your parents and grandparents made, and for the invaluable gift of freedom. Today, almost 80 years after the end of World War II, the values of freedom and democracy are still a strong bridge between the two shores of the Atlantic. You, the people of Canada, have built this country as a community that is open to all, beyond ethnicity, language, or religion, a true community of values. And it is the same spirit that brings us Europeans together. 27 proud countries, 24 official languages, in one union, almost 500 million people, the European Union. Today we are a community of values, and together we are a community of destiny. The more painful it is that the very values that unite us are challenged today like never before. 1 year ago, Russia sent tanks, drones, and missiles over the borders and against a sovereign and peaceful country. Since then, countless lives have been shattered, countless families separated. Hundreds of thousands of young Ukrainians had to kiss their loved ones goodbye and left to the front to fight for freedom. Millions more had to leave not only their homes, but also their dreams behind. All of this because President Putin refuses to recognize their freedom and their independence. And this we can simply not accept. We will never accept that a military power with fantasies of empire rolls its tanks across an international border. We will never accept that Putin denies the very existence of Ukraine as a state and as a nation. We will never accept this threat to European security and to the very foundation of our international community. And I know that Canada's commitment is just as adamant as ours. Canada and the European Union will uphold the UN Charter. We will stand up for Ukraine to be the master of their own future. Nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. And we will keep supporting Ukraine for as long as it takes. Canada has a very special connection to Ukraine. Many proud Canadians are also very proud of their Ukrainian heritage. And you understood the gravity of events in Ukraine before many others, including many Europeans. In 2014, Putin invaded Ukraine for the first time. Already back then, Canada decided to set up a training mission for the Ukrainian military. Operation Unifier has trained over 35,000 Ukrainian soldiers. And this has proven to be vital in the hours that followed the full-scale Russian invasion of last year. Putin believed that he would get Kyiv within 3 days. What a strategic mistake. Ukraine's resistance has stunned the world. That was primarily, of course, because of the courage of the Ukrainian people. But it was also, and crucially, because of the professionalism of the Ukrainian soldiers, many trained by Canada. And I cannot overstate this. Canada has saved Ukraine's in the first days. And I want to thank everyone involved in Operation Unifier for your amazing service. Canada's response to the war in Ukraine has gone above and beyond the call of duty. And I'm so grateful, dear Justin, for your constant close cooperation during this year. Everything we did for Ukraine, we did it together. Because we believe that Ukraine and the values that it strives for must prevail in this war. First, we believe that Ukraine deserves our steadfast military and economic support. The support package that Europe has put together with almost 100 billion Canadian dollars is unprecedented in living memory. Canada is also contributing well beyond your fair share. And now European military trainers are working side by side with Canadian trainers. Second, we believe that Russia must pay for its crime of aggression. Our sanctions have been closely aligned since day one of the invasion. And now, because of our common price cap on oil, Russian proceeds from crude oil and petroleum products have plunged by 48% in February from a year ago. And third, we believe that Ukrainians must be the masters of their own future. They have a right to choose their association, and Ukraine has made its choice. They want to be member of the European Union, but Putin wants to force Ukraine to be part of Russia. He has achieved exactly the opposite. Today, Ukraine is a candidate country to join the European Union, and Europe is leading the effort to help Ukraine rebuild their country. And Canada is a key partner for this, focusing not only on infrastructure, but also on healing the physical and mental wounds of Ukrainian victims. And we cannot ease their pain and suffering, but we can ease their healing. And I thank you for that. This is what it means that Europe and Canada are like-minded partners. We share the same purpose, the same belief, and this is true not only for our governments, but also for our people. Think about the way Canadians and Europeans welcomed Ukraine refugees. When Ukrainian refugees knocked on our door, Europeans and Canadians did not hesitate for one moment. And today, 4 million Ukrainians live and work inside our union. The people of Europe have opened their hearts and their homes, and the same is true for the people of Canada. You are now hosting more than 165,000 Ukrainians, an incredible amount for a country on the other side of the ocean. But beyond the numbers are the stories, your stories. Stories of heart-wrenching separation. Stories of dangerous flight to safety. Stories of finally a warm embrace here in Canada. And I know that some of you are with us today in the gallery, so please join me in honoring all of them, all the Canadians who make this country a country of solidarity and hope. Mesdames et messieurs,
ladies and gentlemen, war has also brought Europe and Canada closer together for another reason. Before the invasion, Europe was extremely dependent on Russian gas, and Putin tried to use this to blackmail us. Russia cut off 80% of the flow of gas to Europe over 8 months, and European energy prices skyrocketed. Last summer, our energy bills went up by 300%. But Putin's blackmail failed. We replaced the Russian gas with more imports from reliable suppliers. And Canada played a key role by increasing its liquid natural gas exports. Meanwhile, we improved our energy efficiency. We reduced our energy consumption by 20%. And most of all, we massively invested in renewable energies. Clean, local, renewable energies that offer us energy independence. But our work cannot stop there. The future of energy is renewables. Therefore, our partnership with Canada is crucial in order to speed up the pivot to clean energy. Canada and Europe are global leaders on climate action. Our climate goals have been enshrined in law. We have created a system for carbon pricing. And we have proved that we can both develop the economy and reduce emissions. However, new challenges are now facing us. The global race for clean technology has started. There is increasing competition to attract investment and to control the most critical links of key supply chains. In this more competitive environment, Canada and Europe must be playing for the same team. Vital supply chains must not be controlled by autocratic powers. We Europeans learned that lesson the hard way. Democracies must work together in order to reduce risks. It is a matter of national security, and our values are also at stake. Let us consider commodities. Canada is a natural partner for us due to the minerals that you extract, but also because of how Europeans care about the environment and about labor rights. We want to ensure that local and Indigenous communities can benefit from our investments. And that's exactly the case in Canada.
En matière de valeurs, le
Canada and Europe also share the same language of values. Let us work together on climate, on the economy, and with the goal of freeing ourselves from our dangerous dependencies.
2 world wars, the world declared that all human beings are entitled to equal and inalienable rights. But today, some powers are explicitly trying to destroy this basic principle. I was in Bucha right after its liberation by Ukraine's army. I saw the body bags lined up by the side of the street. I heard the stories of rape, of executions in cold blood carried out by Russian troops. And Russia continues to commit atrocities, bombing civilians, striking the most vulnerable. The United Nations says Russia is using rape and sexual violence as part of its military strategy in Ukraine. This is not only a war on Ukraine, it is also a war on human rights, and it is a war on women's rights. But Ukrainian women are fighting back. They have been fighting back ever since 2014. When the first Russian invasion happened, women were not allowed to carry out combat duties. But they did not care, and they started joining the army. Let me quote Lieutenant Colonel Melanie Lake of the Canadian Armed Forces, who led Operation Unifier, and she is with us today somewhere. She said, and I quote, "Ukrainian women did not wait for doors to be open for them to serve in all capacities. They broke the doors down." End of quote. These women also smashed a glass ceiling right over the head of the Russian invaders. Since the start of the war, the number of women serving in the military has more than doubled. And it's not just about women in the army. Millions of Ukrainian women are standing up for their children's future in freedom. One Ukrainian woman above all has become a global symbol. The First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelenska. She stayed in Kiev in the darkest hours. Together with her husband, she's emblematic of the courage of the Ukrainian people. I saw her in action on the global stage as an advocate for her people, especially those most vulnerable, an unbreakable force for good. These women are an inspiration for all of us, and I want to honor them on the eve of the International Women's Day. At war or in peace, we need all our talents to live up to the big challenges of our time. Canada knows this well. 8 years ago, when asked why he appointed a gender-equal cabinet, Prime Minister Trudeau replied, because it's 2015. As simple as that. And I am proud to lead the first gender-balanced college in the history of the European Commission. And before the end of my mandate, 50% of all managers of the European Commission will be women. As in Canada, Europe knows that men and women bring different perspectives. Diversity leads to better decisions, better societies. Gender equality does not just happen, not even because it's 2023. It requires day-to-day attention and commitment to ensure that women and girls can be free from violence, to ensure that women earn the same as their male colleagues because they deserve it, to ensure that women as well as men can have a career and a family, to ensure that women can reach the very top level because they are qualified. We have a duty to set an example to society and the economy of what a world of fair chances looks like. And this duty counts every day, not just on International Women's Day. My dear friends in this august House, no democracy is perfect. But all democracies are perfectible. This is our mission. And this is what brings us together. It is the mission that has moved generation upon generation of great Canadians and Europeans. They had the audacity to look beyond the imperfection of what is and to see the beauty of what could be. The generation that brought Europe together after 2 world wars and after the fall of the Soviet Union, and the generations that made Canada the inclusive and welcoming country it is today. A country that is proud of its heritage and open to the future. The home of Indigenous people as well as newcomers. A place of traditions and innovation, where it does not matter who you are, how you pray, and who you love. Canada, where you can make the most of your life and the best of your community. And this is also my vision of Europe. This is what I work for every single day. So, Canada and Europe, let us walk this path together. Thank you very much.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President.
The Senate to say a few words.
President von der Leyen, Prime Minister Trudeau, Speaker Rhoda, fellow parliamentarians, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, mesdames et messieurs.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all parliamentarians and guests in this chamber, it is my honor, Your Excellency, to thank you for your presence and your speech to the Parliament of Canada. Your words make it abundantly clear that you are a friend of Canada.
It is fitting that you are here today, Madam President, following President Zelensky's address to this House a little over 1 year ago. Your words today remind us of the depth of our shared values and of the importance of defending them. With war tragically having returned to Europe following Russia's barbaric and illegal invasion of Ukraine, protecting the values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law is now more important than ever. They are the values that we must never take for granted. They are the values that Ukrainians have found themselves fighting for each and every day. In recent years, the world has witnessed a rise in protectionism and populism that threatens to undermine the rule-based world order and indeed erodes the very fundamental values of democracy itself. Madam President, I know I speak on behalf of all Canadians when I say that we value your strong leadership, your outspoken support of Ukraine as it defends itself against Russian aggression. You have demonstrated that your response to this crisis has been guided by the principles of democracy and respect for human rights. Madam President, we applaud your efforts in every way in this regard. Indeed, it is these very principles that make Canada and Europe an integral part of the global family of democracies. Canada and the European Union have a common vision for meeting our collective long-term challenges, and we stand together in defending peace, territorial integrity, and the rule of law. And though these are troubling times, these are also times when people look to great leaders such as you, Madam President, for your hope and for your courage. In your State of the Union address to the European Parliament last fall, you invoked the inspiring words of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II when she said at the height of the pandemic, "We will succeed, and that success will belong to every one of us." Reflecting on those words, you added the very thoughtful insight that our future is built on new ideas and founded in our oldest values. Your words resonate now, Madam President, more than ever before. As well, on this the eve of International Women's Day, I wish to take a moment to acknowledge the vital role that women play in shaping our societies and our economies. And Canada and Europe must continue to lead the way in promoting gender equality by ensuring access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. In closing, I would once again highlight the importance of the Canada-Europe partnership and reaffirm our shared commitment to peace and prosperity around the world. Thank you, Madam President, for sharing with us your vision for the road ahead. Please be assured of the solidarity of the people of Canada as you continue on this most important journey. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Madam President, thank you for your address. Your leadership inspires us all. Over the course of your remarkable career, you have worked tirelessly to defend human rights, ensure shared opportunity, and strengthen international peace, security, democracy, and the rule of law. These efforts helped to build the European Union's reputation even more as a beacon of hope for stability and equality.
Which Canada shares provide the foundation for dynamic economic growth that will steadily move the European Union and Canada towards a better future for our nations, for our planet. The European Union and Canada have a long history of friendship and, for many of us, including me, family ties that bring us even closer together. In a world where differences lead to conflict, Canada and the European Union stand together on common ground. Together, in support for Ukraine. Together, our efforts to build a better, more prosperous future. Together, always to defend and strengthen democracy. Comme je l'ai dit,
as I have said, it is a remarkable achievement to be the trailblazer that you are, Madam President. I am certain that your words and actions over the course of your career will be a source of inspiration for those who will follow.
Today, and thank you for your address. Thank you also to all the parliamentarians and distinguished guests who attended this historic address to Parliament. Merci à vous tous.
Thank you all.